Hi, welcome to Get Married in a Year. My name is Liza Chuma Akunyili and I am your host. For the next 18 weeks, our goal is to go from being single to being ready to meet someone and date in real life. In order for us to successfully do that, we're starting with what is called selfish match. Why do you need a relationship? What is so personal to you as a person that you want this relationship to meet? We spoke about needs and today we're speaking about status. This word has a bad feeling when it comes up. Reason being, we grew up in an environment, depending on the country you're in, where we had socioeconomic status. And on the basis of that, people were turned down romantically. People were told they were not qualified to love the people they loved. Marriages were torn apart by family members who would not let the marriage happen, and so they either disowned one party in the relationship or they tried to sabotage the marriage over the years. A lot of things happened and a lot of things still do happen. However, why are people obsessed with status? It is important for you to know, because if you don't, you would turn your relationship into, GoFundMe came to mind. You turn it into a foundation. And the problem with dating like your life is a foundation or an NGO is that you meet up with people on the basis of pity. And pity doesn't work for long. For all the years I sat down in therapy with people, the most predominant thing that was a problem in people's romantic relationships was realizing they were underserving themselves. Partners were toxic, yes, but people knew their partners were toxic at some point or the other. Some other people didn't know, but at least they knew that they were underserved. They knew that their needs were unmet. They knew they were with someone they could not brag about in certain circles. Why then do we make it look like status is not a big thing? Because it is a big thing. Status is such a big deal that in order for us to not pay attention to it, we need to convince ourselves that it is not a big deal. Does that make sense? So you gaslight and blackmail yourself into saying, oh well, I can date someone who is, or I can marry someone who is, knowing full well that if you do that, you have two options only. You're either going to let it go full time, do the hard work of rewiring yourself to let it go, or you're going to resent this person down the line. If you're a person who wants to live a celebrity life, you have no business marrying a farmer. You don't. Don't stress somebody's son. Don't stress somebody's daughter. Don't make their life miserable. If the Lord is calling you to live in a certain way, don't go elsewhere. Don't. Pretending where you are is not where you are. It's not humility. It's tantamount to foolishness in the long run, because you will be frustrated, you'll be frustrated, everybody will be frustrated. You will pay for counseling until you are exhausted. So today, I want you to tell yourself the truth. You don't have to tell me, I don't need it. You do. You do. Your dating life needs it. The person you marry needs it. Your children need it. Your destiny, your purpose needs it. You are the one who knows what the Lord has said to you about marriage. You are the one who knows what the Lord has said to you about your calling. So except the Lord is saying, oh, don't worry, make an exception here because I intend to make this person evolve in this way, or there is a breaker in between your path where you are both going to become equal or you are going to evolve or something. It makes no sense to go the opposite direction of what you already know. If you are a priest, you are a priest. There's no need convincing yourself that, oh, you know what, maybe I will take a break from my priestly life and go be a business person. It doesn't make sense. So now that you know, the question I would ask you, although you may lie to yourself that it is not relevant, is what do you need to excel socially? What do you need to excel socially? If you have been called to serve an international audience, and that international audience is not, and when I say international, I don't mean people who are out of your country necessarily. No, I mean anywhere. So whether you're audience is physical or virtual, because in 2026, a lot of things are happening online. So you don't even get to lie to yourself and say, oh, but I only serve in this country and not in that country. If you have been called and anointed to serve an international audience, whether in business, in ministry, in whatever place the Lord has called you to serve, you need to know who you need to be to serve that audience. For someone listening to me, you may have needed to take etiquette classes to be able to show up in some of the rooms you show up in. You may have had to brush up your pronunciation to be able to show up in some rooms. You may have had to learn better communication. You may have had to be whatever it was that you had to evolve in. The reason you had to do it was because it was required. You didn't do it because you wanted to suffer. This is not about being finicky. This is not about being picky. These things are requirements in certain seasons of your life. And everybody who will meet you in that space is not going to meet you on the basis of thus saith the Lord. Two stories that stand out to me in terms of social appearance biblically. One, Moses. How did the daughters of Jethro know that Moses was an Egyptian? Moses was running from Egypt because he had murdered someone. By every format of hiding, it was impossible that Moses would have run out looking like a prince. Yet, they could recognize that Moses was Egyptian. What was it about his look, his appearance, his carriage? Oh, 3 even. Jesus, the woman by the well. How did she know he was Jew? What was it about his appearance, his hair, his body? What was it about it that told her this person was Jew? Third person, Rebecca. What was it about Rebecca at the well that said to Abraham's servant, this one is a virgin? What was it about her appearance? So do not lie to yourself that the way your partner or your potential partner carries themselves, the way they engage socially is not something that is important to you. Who is your audience? What is your calling? What is your anointing? What is the social requirement for your calling? Some of you may be people who have to go hiking to meet your next business partner, which means you don't want to necessarily end up with someone who talks down on these things, even if they don't do it. You don't want to be someone who ends up with a partner who detests sports and who publicly say they detest it. It's not just that they detest it, it's how they handle it socially. You don't want to end up with someone who says, oh, please, I'm not a diplomatic person. Meanwhile, you've been called to be a diplomat. What is the social requirement for you to excel? Write it out. Write it out. Don't assume inside your head. Write out your own, not the person's own, your own. When you write your own, you are then able to say to God and come to God and ask God, are these things necessary for my spouse? Which part of these things are negotiables and which part of these things are non-negotiables? Many years ago, if I'm not wrong, I do believe it was Reverend Funke Adejumo that had said something along the lines of, you don't want a woman who can stand behind you but cannot stand beside you. The concept of someone standing beside you has not left me ever since. Because over the years, I have found people that I could speak with privately, but I could not speak about in business settings. And it's not because I was not proud of them. It was, they will not enjoy this space. They will not like it. They're going to get angry. They're going to get pissed. Something about this place is not going to be helpful for them. They're going to flare up. When I practiced in counseling and I sat down with people for therapy, there was a certain gentleness to how I handled things that I did not handle things like that at home. Because it was excessive gentleness. Because there were times in therapy where in real life I would have given the person a hot slap. I'm serious. But it was the professional requirement to offer that level of gentleness until the person came to the place where they had the courage and the strength to tell themselves, this is nasty. What do you need professionally to succeed in the place the Lord has called you to? Don't sweep it under the carpet. Don't tell yourself you're being picky. If you need 2 master's degree and a PhD and 300 theses in your name, that's great. It also means to a degree that you cannot have a spouse who cannot go to a work conference with you. They don't have to be in your field. But if something about your research comes up, they need to be interested enough to make 2 sentences at least. They need to be able to hold a conversation if you stand up and go to the restroom. When you go to the restroom, you should not be afraid that they'll tear your spouse apart before you return. If you're someone who deals in millions and in billions, or you know God is calling you to do that, you don't want to have a spouse who is terrified of money or terrified of people who speak about money. Because if you do, it means you can't go anywhere with them. So they are fantastic to stand behind you, but they are not amazing to stand beside you. You need a spouse that can represent you. That if you were not in the room and your spouse walked in the room, we should be able to tell the caliber of person you are. So what is your status need? Educational status, professional status. Once I heard a young man say to me, a friend actually say to me, that he cannot marry a woman who's never built anything. 4 years before he made that statement, I would have judged him harshly. But at the time he was making the statement, I was having an upheaval in one of my relationships. And I remembered at some point realizing, I know why me and this person always clash when I go to work. They don't build anything. Everything they have is built by someone else. And so their opinion of things is, you close it down and you go and do what you need to do. But that's not realistic when you're building. That's not realistic in the first few years of building. It's not. If it's a one-man show, you're a content creator, fantastic. Even content creators don't do it by themselves anymore. But if it's a content creation business, I can imagine. But if you run an organization and you're learning structure, you probably cannot clock in 5 hours a day. That's not going to be realistic if you're trying to build at a certain pace. So write out your status requirement socially, write out your professional status requirement, and then bring them before the Lord. Until I see you in the next prayer podcast, here is a clue for dating in real life for today. Today's dating in real life clue. If you want to date your friend, or if you're looking among your friend group, wondering, who should I date among my friends? Look for someone you like, obviously, but look for someone who likes you. Not just someone you like, not just someone you gush over. Let it be someone who also likes you. Let it be someone who is kind to you. Let it be someone you are comfortable with. Let it be someone you trust. Let it be someone you care about, someone who cares about you. Someone you can give great news when they are also having a bad day. Something great is happening in your life and something bad is happening in their life. Yet you can receive their bad news and your great news is not diminished. And they can receive your great news and they don't think you're trying to force joy down their throat. Right? You also want it to be someone that you can have a hard conversation with. Someone you can confront. Someone who can confront you and pull you up. Someone who knows your goals and will not let you suffer. I hope now you have clues to date someone in real life. Don't just talk about it. Don't just pray about dating. Date in real life. See you during the prayer. Bye.